$221,000. Commit this figure to memory, because that's exactly how much the streaming behemoth Netflix literally burned through on 8 episodes of the new season of The Witcher. This isn't just a wasted budget, it's the financial crime of the century against common sense and fan expectations. Did you know that for that money, you could have bought a small island, cloned Henry Cavill, or filmed a series that at least dreamed of the glory of Game of Thrones? But instead they handed us this. A soulless, plastic, unbelievably dreary corpse that made viewers collapse in boredom and fury. Buckle up, because we are in for the dirtiest investigation of the year. What Netflix did with the 4th season of The Witcher is a monumental, costly fiasco. A cynical desecration of everything fans loved. On the one hand, we have a colossal budget, nearly $27 million per episode. That is damn well more than many blockbusters. On the other, we have an audience rating of 17% on Rotten Tomatoes. 17%. This isn't the bottom. It's a hellish abyss drilled by the bore of mediocrity, incompetence, and a complete disregard for the source material. How is this even possible? How did a mega-corporation swimming in money manage to take one of the most beloved fantasy universes and turn it into tasteless, unwatchable garbage? This is the main question shaking Hollywood right now. Who will pay for this nightmarish banquet? And why are the showrunners so sure they can spit on the viewer with impunity? We will lance this boil and expose all the scandalous details. For months, for years, we heard only one question. Can Liam Hemsworth handle it? The casting of Chris's younger brother as Geralt became the most debated drama on the internet. Viewers screamed, "How dare he replace Cavill, the canonical, the perfect, the lore-loving?" They discussed his scowl, his physique, his wigs. But do you know what the most damning thing is? All this hype, all these tears, and tons of angry comments turned out to be nothing more than a grand diversionary tactic. Forget Liam Hemsworth, we lied to ourselves. The replacement of the actor in the role of the White Wolf is the least of this season's problems. Understand this. The showrunners committed something far worse than poor casting. They turned the entire series into a creative corpse. Hemsworth is simply the new pathologist called in to officially confirm the death. And the main nauseating truth is that the actor's identity is absolutely irrelevant now because there is nothing to watch. This is an artificial collapse, priced like an aircraft carrier. Let's still give Liam his due. He walked onto the stage already cursed by the fans and did something. Critics did not spare him. The Guardian called him a broody dullard and then finished with the coup de grâce. As charismatic as a post in a wig. Cavill's chiseled, brutal jawline and superhuman growl are gone, replaced by a softer and more passive Hemsworth. His voice timbre is a catastrophic downgrade from his predecessor's bass growl. It seems he had to compensate for the lack of brutality by flaring his nostrils and anxiously peering into the foggy distance. A quote worthy of the trash press. Physically, yes, he is perhaps more book-accurate, a nimble swordsman, not a massive beast. And in the fight scenes, lo and behold, he looks decent, but only until he opens his mouth. And then the magic vanishes, and what we have is a lump in a wig. And these aren't my malicious words. This is the verdict of the English language press. There is even suspicion that his voice was artificially lowered to somehow cosplay Cavill. Cosplaying the main character. Are you serious, Netflix? But those are just the flowers. The real disaster lies in the script, or lack thereof. Geralt of Rivia is no longer the main character of his own series. The showrunners shoved the Butcher of Blaviken into the background. Watching the 4th season isn't a viewing. It's a boring homework assignment that you are obligated to complete but don't want to. The season's structure is scattered, like the memory of a stoned mage. We are shown 3 absolutely unrelated fantasy novellas. Geralt, Yennefer, and Ciri, the family that should be the center of the drama, spend the entire season apart. Ciri, she's hanging out with the Rats gang, who look 30 but cosplay teenagers, and going through her endless teenage rebellion. Yennefer, she's roaming the continent alone, trying to assemble some army of mages, a plot hole filler. And Geralt, he is just walking. He is trudging somewhere in the company of Jasquier and a whole crowd of new companions. There are no fewer than 6 of them, who are introduced so quickly and senselessly that you can't keep their names straight. The main character has become a background and a support for the extras. This isn't The Witcher. It's the adventures of 7 nameless companions who walk alongside the guy in a white wig. The plot doesn't move forward. It walks in circles, desperately stretching the runtime to fulfill Netflix's contractual hours. This isn't a season. It's a tedious, incoherent, nauseating preparation for the finale in Season 5. And the only bright spot is Lawrence Fishburne as the vampire Regis. But even he was invited solely for star power to somehow compensate for the loss of Cavill. This is where the real scandal begins. What does a series that costs $27 million per episode look like? The answer? Surprisingly cheap. All the grimness, blood and cruelty that the world of The Witcher should be famous for have turned into a stage prop, unnatural and primitive gore fest. The world on screen is unconvincing and unreal. Instead of dark realism, we get the trademark oversaturated Netflix color palette where the characters have flawless 21st century makeup even after a battle in the swamp. You physically feel that they are filming on cheap sets or against a green screen. The tone of the series is wildly inconsistent. It fluctuates between the grimness of Game of Thrones, which it desperately but incompetently cosplays, and a cheap early 90s Saturday night series. We demand an accounting. Where did $221 million go? What special effects? What costumes? What acting? It creates the impression that most of the budget went not to production, but to corporate bonuses and endless reshoots to somehow cover up the script holes. The result? On screen, it's a plastic fake that feels like it cost no more than $5 million per episode. This is theft. This is a fraud. The most unforgivable sin of the creators is a complete misunderstanding and contempt for the legacy of Andrzej Sapkowski. What they are doing is no longer an adaptation, it is vandalism. The screenwriters introduce glaring, unforgivable changes to the canon. Kill off important characters too early, robbing them of their plot purpose. Evacuate the essence of the source material, leaving only an empty shell. This is a series where people who are completely unsuitable for the task are writing their own dull script without a single hint of inspiration. They took a gold mine, which along with the spin-offs is approaching $1 billion, and turned it into soulless, dreary, and unwatchable garbage. The fan verdict is final and not subject to appeal. The numbers speak louder than any critic. The 4th season of The Witcher has gone down in history with the lowest audience rating in the entire history of the show. 17 to 18% on Rotten Tomatoes. Compare that to other flops. The disastrous Season 3, around 20%. The wretched spin-off Blood Origin, at or slightly above that level. The Witcher 4 is worse than its own disastrous predecessor and worse than the most hated spin-off. This isn't just a fall, it's a triumphal descent down the toilet. Viewers unanimously confirm that this is the weakest chapter in the entire Netflix franchise. All that remains is to toss one last coin for the funeral of our Witcher. What's the bottom line? $221 million spent on something that looks cheap. Geralt turned into a lump in a wig. The plot turned into boring homework. The canon was brutally murdered. The ratings plummeted into the abyss. Showrunner Lauren Hissrich-Schmidt and her team achieved their goal, but not in the way they intended. They wanted to prove that they absolutely didn't care about Henry Cavill's departure. And they proved it. But not because they could deliver a worthy product, but quite the opposite. They made it so wretched and unwatchable that the actor swap is no longer relevant to anyone because this garbage is impossible to watch anyway without nervous shaking, yawning, or fits of aggression. Cavill left, but the fans left forever. And now the main question that haunts us and that we must discuss right now. In light of this colossal failure, who should be held accountable for the financial crime against The Witcher? And when will Netflix finally realize that money cannot replace talent, respect for the source material, and most importantly, respect for the viewer? Let's look at the situation from a cold, cynical economic perspective. $221 million. This isn't just money. It's an investment that should have brought in billions. The Witcher is a franchise that has millions of fans worldwide thanks to the books and cult games. It's a ready, proven golden asset. But Netflix, under the guidance of its showrunners, continues to methodically shoot itself in the foot, turning gold bars into ashes. This fourth season is the perfect textbook on how not to adapt popular fantasy. They invested heavily in logistics, in the number of episodes, in a big-name cast, Fishburne, but not a penny, in respect for the story and script logic. They think it's enough to hire a louder star, dump more money on a green screen, and the viewer will swallow anything. This is an insult to the audience's intelligence. The failure of the fourth season has much more serious consequences than just low ratings. It makes the Witcher brand toxic for Netflix. Firstly, they burned the bridge with Cavill's fans, who were the most loyal and vocal part of the audience. Secondly, they alienated fans of the books and games, who now distrust every single decision of the showrunners. Thirdly, they showed the world that Netflix is incapable of managing high-budget fantasy at the level of Game of Thrones, or even The Wheel of Time. $221 million simply destroyed the brand's value. Netflix didn't just lose money, it created an anti-franchise. Now when they announce the fifth season, the reaction won't be hooray, but that tedious garbage again. They killed the intrigue, killed the anticipation, and now they will have to beg viewers to finish watching. This is capitulation. They flushed $221 million to convince us that The Witcher is boring. Let's not be naive. Henry Cavill's departure was not just a creative decision. Rumors in Hollywood suggest irreconcilable creative differences, which is code for the actor couldn't stand the showrunner's mediocrity. Cavill, as everyone knows, adored the books, fought for the canon, and tried to bring some logic into the series. Cavill didn't leave, he was forced out. His passion for the canon became a threat to the showrunners. He was a living reproach to their incompetence. His departure is not a pity. It is the victory of mediocrity over talent and respect. They got rid of the actor who knew they were doing everything wrong. And as soon as he left, they joyfully dove to the bottom with Hemsworth. Let's return to the visual nightmare. Fantasy should be grim, gritty, alive. The world of The Witcher is a rotting swamp, swarming with monsters and human depravity. What do we see? Oversaturated colors. It looks like someone cranked the brightness slider to maximum. No grimness whatsoever. Perfect hair and makeup. The heroes fight in swamps, run from monsters, but their hair looks like they just stepped out of a 21st century beauty salon. Prop monsters. Where there should be terrifying monsters, we see poorly rendered CGI models that look like screensavers from 2005. $27 million per episode to look like a second-rate CW series. Netflix destroyed the atmosphere. They replaced dark realism with glamorous, sterile polish. This is not a world where people die of plague and live in dirt. It's a theme park for the privileged. Where does this fear of dirt come from? Why the flawless makeup? It's simply flippancy. The problem isn't just Geralt. All the main characters were distorted and killed. Yennefer. Instead of a proud, smart, cynical sorceress, we got a mindless portal user who simply teleports the plot from point A to point B. Where is her character? Where are her ambitions? Ciri. Her storyline with the Rats Gang is an agonizing, drawn-out saga of teenage rebellion. She should be an important, key character with enormous potential, but she became a Mary Sue teenager with questionable associates. Geralt. As we already said, he became a guide for a crowd of nameless newcomers. The family of Geralt, Yennefer, and Ciri is shattered. This is not a family. These are three disjointed plot lines that could exist in three different series. We don't empathize because they are together for only 5 minutes a season. Where are the emotions? Where is the connection? Where is the drama? The screenwriters simply don't know how to write stories about interaction. The most terrible thing is the showrunners' arrogant attitude toward the source material, their philosophy. We know better than the author who created this world. They rewrite key moments just to squeeze in their own agenda or mediocre ideas. That they create new, unnecessary plot lines that only bloat the runtime. Hello, Rats Gang. They humiliate the characters, stripping them of depth and motivation. Netflix's The Witcher is not an adaptation, it's fan fiction. Cheap, mediocre, insulting fan fiction written by people who do not love this world. They use Sapkowski's names and locations as empty brands to lure the viewer, and then they show their own dullness. They are not adapting, they are mocking. If The Witcher 4 had been shorter, say 4 episodes, perhaps its failure wouldn't have been so monumental. But no, Netflix needs content. They need to fill the airtime. And so we got 8 agonizing hours of endless journeys, empty dialogues, and walking in circles. This series is not fantasy, it's torture by runtime. You look at your watch thinking, when the hell will this end? And this is for $27 million. They are so unsure of their material that they are forced to stretch every scene, every event, every duel to achieve the necessary length. Boredom is their main monster. The only thing that sparks a weak, dying interest is the appearance of Lawrence Fishburne as the vampire Regis. His casting was controversial. A dark-skinned Regis is yet another violation of the canon. But damn it, he acts. He brings the necessary depth, wisdom, and charisma. Fishburne is a one-man army. He is the only one who looks expensive and convincing. But even his star power cannot save this sinking ship. He was invited as an emergency mascot to somehow compensate for the loss of Cavill and justify the $27 million. But Regis cannot carry the entire season. The Witcher is confidently limping toward its finale in Season 5, but who will watch it? The fan base is torn to shreds, trust is destroyed. The 5th season will be the final nail in the coffin. It will be the funeral of a once great franchise. Viewers will watch it not out of interest, but out of vengeance, to see the showrunners finally fail. This isn't anticipation, it's schadenfreude. The failure of The Witcher is a wake-up call for all of Hollywood and the streaming industry. Money cannot buy audience love. Ignoring the source material is suicide. Boredom is the scariest monster. We, the viewers, are not dummies. We won't watch garbage just because you invested $221 million into it. We want quality. We want respect for the canon. We want drama and emotion. The Witcher's failure is a strike against corporate arrogance, and we will laugh at this fiasco. Netflix's The Witcher is another embodiment of wasted potential and irrevocably lost hopes. It's not just a failure, it's a total catastrophe, a financial and creative crime. 221 million, a 17% rating, and countless hours of boredom. All we can do is shudder and wait for this nightmarish circus to finally leave. One figure cannot be ignored, who in the opinion of fans and critics is the main architect of this failure, showrunner Lauren Hissrich-Schmidt. Her name has become synonymous with canon destruction and creative incompetence. The showrunner doesn't just make mistakes, she openly doesn't like the source. Rumors suggest she has stated multiple times that she hasn't read all the books or doesn't understand them. This is like entrusting the conducting of a symphony to someone who hates music. The result? Chaos, dissonance, and a resounding failure. Cavill left not only due to script disagreements, but also because of the atmosphere of contempt for the original material that Schmidt created. This isn't a series, it's her personal mediocre fanfiction. And Netflix continues to pay her hundreds of thousands of dollars to continue killing the franchise. A failure of this magnitude does not go without consequences for the entire industry. Hollywood is watching the numbers. The Witcher 4 sent a powerful signal. It's not the money, but the respect for the fans that matters. The failure could lead to the cancellation of other costly fantasy projects at Netflix and its competitors. Investors will now think 3 times before giving millions for an adaptation if it's run by someone who hates the source. Lauren Schmidt is putting a stop to the future of fantasy. To be fair, it must be said, not all the actors are to blame. Most of them are victims of a mediocre script. Anya Chalotra, Yennefer and Freya Allen, Ciri. Both are talented, but their characters are reduced to functions. Joey Beatty, Jaskier, a bright spot, but his function is Geralt's chief tour guide on his endless wandering. Liam Hemsworth, his burden was not easy. He is doing everything he can with a wretched script. Their talents are ground into dust in the meat grinder of a meaningless plot. Actors can act, but they can't rewrite the dialogue they were given. They can't create intrigue where there is none. They are simply puppets in the hands of an incompetent puppeteer. The cast are the prisoners of The Witcher. The script of the 4th season is a real Frankenstein, stitched together from scraps of original stories, forced new storylines, and stupid, illogical decisions. The episodes do not connect. They look like separate, unrelated short films. Plot lines do not intersect. The drama does not build. You watch and realize, this was written by different people who didn't talk to each other. It's a mess dressed up as a series. Fans are not just criticizing, they are desperately angry. Their anger is the pain of betrayal. They loved this world. They fought for Henry Cavill. They believed. Netflix betrayed its most loyal audience. They spat in the face of the fans who were willing to pay for a subscription. Viewers feel cheated. This is not just a bad show. It's a personal insult. Fans are no longer consumers. They are survivors of the viewing. The Witcher crawls towards season 5, but it's already a collapse on its feet. The series is methodically destroying everything that once could have been a gold mine. Put a coin on Geralt's eyes. The screenwriters, directors, and showrunner, they achieved their goal. They absolutely don't care about the viewer, Cavill, or the canon. They did everything possible to make us say, we don't care. We're leaving! And that is the saddest legacy of Netflix's The Witcher. The fans' demand, the removal of Lauren Hissrich-Schmidt, rings louder than ever. 221 million of failure is not just a reason, it's an ultimatum. How can Netflix allow the person responsible for a catastrophic 17% rating and the loss of hundreds of millions to continue running the project? This is insanity. This is disrespect to shareholders and subscribers. If Schmidt stays, it proves Netflix doesn't care about quality, they only care about content. We demand the resignation of the chief destroyer. Even the critics who were previously loyal to Netflix are no longer holding back. Their reviews are boiling anger. Critics called the series a dreary sightseeing trip, lifeless and nauseating. They stand in solidarity with the fans. The problem isn't Liam, it's the empty script, $27 million to cause a gag reflex. The bottom line, $221,000 for nervous shaking. We have completed our dirty investigation. The conclusions are disheartening. The Witcher 4 is a funeral. It is theft of money. It is betrayal of the fans. How did this mediocrity get 221 million? This question should be rumbling in Hollywood. This is not just a failure, it's a warning. Don't touch fantasy if you don't love it. Discuss in the comments. That was quite the drive. Now it's your turn. What do you think about Netflix's financial crime? Did Liam Hemsworth become the main scapegoat? Do you think Lauren Schmidt should step down after such a disgrace? Write what you think about all this in the comments. Don't forget to give a thumbs up if you liked our takedown and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the next videos.